Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. In today's episode, we speak with Jack and Desiree from THNDR. THNDR is a gaming platform that enables instant payouts and deposits, eliminating many of the payment frictions from the gaming industry. It achieves this through Bitcoin's Lightning Network. We hope you enjoy the conversation. And as a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only. If you enjoy the content, please remember to like, follow, share, as all of this helps us greatly. Welcome to Build with Bitcoin. I'm co-host Israel along with Lynn. Today we have the pleasure of welcoming Jack and Desiree from THNDR. Desiree, Jack, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you guys on. A very different industry company, so we're excited to get into what you guys are doing at THNDR and what gaming has to do with Bitcoin. Before we get into that, it'd be great to start with maybe just, can you tell us a little bit about both of you guys, maybe a little bit about your backgrounds and how you came together to start THNDR?
Yeah, for sure. I can give a quick and dirty intro. So we've been doing this at THNDR together for 3 years. Jack actually started the company, which I'll let him get into. But I previously worked at Lightning Labs as VP of Business Operations, and that was a really great experience, really focusing on like liquidity tools and the Lightning Network there. I met Jack in virtual reality, and we became good friends. I always kind of thought of games as a really interesting and effective way of onboarding new users to Bitcoin. I think we've seen that historically with new technology, like Solitaire for Microsoft, for getting users used to using a computer mouse for the first time, Nokia with Snake and getting used to that new handset. And so that was like always really interesting to me. And also, selfishly, I grew up gaming, and so it was really something I spent a lot of time like with that use case in my work at Lightning Labs. And I actually met Jack, who was experimenting with exactly that and doing some of like the really, really early work in that space. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jack to talk about his journey.
Yeah, so my background was special effects and mobile games. So around 2010, I started small games company that tried to take advantage of the trends that were happening with the App Store just coming out like a year before. And yeah, I had some like early success as one of the early adopters of like trying to do apps on this new device. And around that time, 2012, 2013, I got into Bitcoin as well, just by chance. I can't even remember. I probably saw it on the news or something, like that it was $10 a coin or something crazy. I just followed Bitcoin for a long time, and I couldn't really figure out how to combine Bitcoin with games. So I just kept going with my that business at the time, just making more games and just like following Bitcoin from like an investor perspective, but not serious. And then my interest got piqued again in 2017 when obviously Bitcoin went crazy price, like $20,000 a coin. And I started looking into it again, and then I started following what was happening with the Lightning Network, and I thought, oh, actually, we could actually have this in games because we can have real-time payments, and they can be really small amounts, which was a problem before because you couldn't, settle the payments as quickly. And and I kind of got annoyed that people were saying it wasn't going to work. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to add Bitcoin with Lightning to a game and see if it works, and prove like, hey, it's rough. And it did work. And then I was like, okay, well, then I'll try and get on the App Store, see if Apple will even let me have it. And then they did. So then I met Desiree, and like she said, we got joined forces and tried to commercialize everything.
Desiree, how did you come to Bitcoin? Just taking a step back.
Interesting question. I actually came to Bitcoin via Dogecoin. I became really interested in Dogecoin when I was in grad school. Just because I was chronically on Reddit in grad school, like not doing my work. yeah, I was kind of obsessed with that community and just the memes. I am not as it really thinking of it as a legitimate currency, although I still wish I had my paper wallet today. Um, and it was super fun and interesting. And that, I had heard about Bitcoin before, obviously, but that kind of was my segue into being like, oh, okay, like Bitcoin is actually a legitimate version of what's going on over here in this madness. And there is also still a really great community. I will argue that probably not as fun as the Dogecoin community, which I'm no longer part of, but and I say that not in a mean way, but I think that's a really high bar to meet is Dogecoin. So yeah, it's an interesting kind of path to Bitcoin, but yeah, through Dogecoin is the short story.
And then joining Lightning Labs, because that's pretty deep into Bitcoin. So how did you make that connection into Lightning Labs?
I obviously thought Bitcoin was really interesting conceptually, and obviously purchasing at a store of value, like all of that, a better money. But I think we still have this problem today is that people weren't able to use it, and they weren't using it for anything outside of purchasing, like buying it and selling it, right? And like illicit activity. So and it wasn't back then, it wasn't because, okay, there wasn't another way in which to use Bitcoin. It's because the technology made it really difficult to use Bitcoin for everyday purchases. And like, obviously the whole scaling stuff happened. And so when I learned about the Lightning Network, I was like, oh, I mean, I don't come from a deeply technical background at all. I mean, I come from a science background, so I mean, I can understand things conceptually a little bit more than some people, but not to the level of like Jack, who understands and has taken like, whatever, what's the class, chain codes classes, so he's super technical. But I was like, okay, on a high level, this conceptually makes sense to me that this could allow Bitcoin to have a lot more utility. And then I met Elizabeth, and yeah, I just kind of like was like, why not work on the one thing that will make it more usable? Because I'm not like an economist and have like all these like really awesome macro insights and financial views, but like I do know people pretty well, and it's always been interesting, like why can't real people use this or figure it out? And I think I know we still have this problem today, and it's something that we consistently battle with at Thunder, because we have not only a lot of end users from when we started out, like really focusing on our B2C games, but now even working in a new industry like iGaming and sports betting, who is very crypto friendly, but like very new to crypto and still kind of understanding their early journey. But both of those spaces, just traditional gaming and iGaming, they're very, very finicky about user experience and making things user friendly. So you can lose a user like this. Like, it's not like, oh, hey, I have to log in to feed my kids or something. It's like, okay, I just want to play this stupid game. So you really have to get good at it. And I really do think our team, if people have played our games, or especially this new like skill-based wagering game, the UX and like how we've structured the Lightning payments in the games is the best that I've personally ever experienced. And I think I can say that I'm from the Midwest, so I'm not like one to boast, but I think I can say that confidently. It's the best UX I've ever personally experienced with using Lightning payments. And that's a long answer, but it's a lot to unpack.
No, and just to kind of bring it back to Thunder, I mean, I think you pointed two things. One, that it's hard for people to think about using Bitcoin. And so that's why I'm so attracted to what you guys are doing at Thunder, because I think I've heard you say that one of your missions is to onboard people to Bitcoin using gaming. And so would love for you to talk about that whole philosophy. Where is it, is the gaming experience has to be number one, and then number two is to loop in people into that, or is it just an adjunct? Is Bitcoin just a part of one of the tools that make it easier to pay out on gaming? But would love for you to dive in a little bit more into what is Thunder and how does Bitcoin Lightning payments integrate into the gaming experience?
Yeah, Jack, I think if you dig into because you've been doing it, and Jack is really an incredible mind when it comes to product and the user experience.
Yeah. So with the games, the first concept was it was kind of like a match made in heaven, because Thunder was all about trying to onboard people to Bitcoin, which is kind of like mine and Desiree's, we want everyone to love it. Also, it really 10x the business model in gaming. And one of the kind of lesser known business models is rewarded gaming. And it's not a new concept with crypto, it's been around for a long time. And that is paying people to play games, basically. So you complete levels or you play for some amount of time, you can just win prizes. And then the idea is the free prizes incentivize people to play longer, and they can you earn more money because you show more ads and they buy more stuff. The problem with that business model was that you could only pay out people via PayPal or manual methods, which would mean that people wouldn't trust the system because they'd have to wait 6 months before they had enough money to withdraw from your game. So you lose people quicker and also get a lot of bad reviews. And if you get bad reviews on the app stores, then you get less free traffic from Google and Apple. So with the Lightning Network, it wouldn't work without a Lightning Network because you couldn't pay out as quickly, and the amounts you can pay out was higher. So with the Lightning Network, you could pay very small amounts almost for free. So that meant within the first session of playing a game, within 30 minutes, someone could win a prize and withdraw it, even if it's just one Satoshi. So it really improved a lot of things about rewarded gaming. The only downside towards it is that people were scared of Bitcoin. So they don't know how to do it, or some people would just be turned off by it. But because it's so easy to use and there's nothing to lose, it actually turns into quite a good tool to teach people about Bitcoin, because they can get the aha moment with very little risk.
And so Jack and Desiree, if I'm hearing you correctly, and maybe just to be very clear, for the audience and including myself who may not know much about the gaming industry. So what you were basically saying, Jack, is that you both identified that there's very slow payment processing in the gaming industry, as far as if I'm a user playing a game and I've accumulated X amount of monies, let's just call it generally, if I want to withdraw that, it's a very slow process. There's a lot of friction points. And with Bitcoin and Lightning, you just kind of move into this world of instant payments, and that just, I imagine the churn, the wheel kind of spins a lot quicker as far as the users and the gaming platform. Is that more or less what you guys the problem you guys are solving for?
So the first problem we solved was that, really, and then it's basically using the fact that you can send one Satoshi, so there's not these limits, the threshold you have to meet before you can send a payment, because it's too expensive to send $1 from someone from our UK company to a person in Venezuela or something. You just can't send them $1. But you have to, I don't know how I didn't do that, but with Lightning, you could send that same person one sat, no problem.
I see. So both the small quantity and the instant payment piece that, of course, Lightning enables. Okay. And I mean, so I was looking up some stats and right before we got on here, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this was just from a very basic search, but we're talking about very large industry, right? I mean, from what I looked up, it seems like just mobile gaming was around $250 billion globally. I mean, what I read was it's even larger than music and movie industries put together. I'm just mentioning these so the listeners also get a basic understanding of the size of the industry we're talking about, because maybe as a non-gamer, which I don't game too much, so I come from an outside perspective. Sometimes you don't realize how large this market really is, right? So, I mean, when you guys mention things like, improving the usability by 10x and, all these ambitious visions you're talking to, it's pretty massive. When did Thunder get started? 2019, I believe, and then kind of a revamp to 2021. Can you tell us a little bit about that initial journey?
The initial journey. Oh, you, Jack.
Yeah. So
I joined in 2021. So
the start of the company, I still had another games company, and I basically decided to do a separate games company because I was scared my bank might get closed with my existing one. I was like, I'd do a different company for these Bitcoin games. So, and it was because it was like kind of risky and I didn't know if it was going to work out. So the first year was about just sort of testing it in parallel with what I was already doing elsewhere and seeing if I could get some traction. And I didn't even know how big the market was. Like, I literally went to the Lightning Network conference in Berlin, of which there was only one ever, and the Desiree organised it with Lightning Labs, just to see how many people were at the event. And I think it was like 300 people. So it was, the first year was really about taking it slow because the tech did work, but you had to be like on call all the time to make sure the payments were going through, and like chopping out different wallets and things when they had bugs. And so the first kind of couple of years really was like, you didn't even know if the tech. I thought the tech was going to work, but you didn't know for sure. But then Des was obviously working on the tech from the other angle in the BD side of Lightning Labs, and then it came together in 2021 where he decided it just had a bit more confidence in the technology as well. It wasn't just like experimental. We'd had some success with like quite good user numbers. So it was really just the right time to do something properly,
Definitely been it's been an interesting journey. I can't remember which one of you asked like a question that made me think like some of the challenges. I think one of the challenges that a lot of people don't mention who are founding companies in this space is that one of the challenges is literally Bitcoin. We talked about, removing a lot of this payment friction when it comes to the traditional fiat system, where it's like these really long processing times, payments not happening on the weekends, restrictions around, how much you can cash out or, how much you can even send. But we, we remove that friction, but then we also introduce all of this friction around a completely new technology that's still evolving. Some of the really incredible innovative tech that Jack and our CTO built around like a two-party, like totally non-custodial peer-to-peer wager. It's beautiful and incredibly elegant and will be amazing in production someday. But today it's so clunky because we just haven't had it, like the protocol hasn't been able to catch up with like what people expect like in an end user product. So that's something we constantly struggle with. And I will say that at the end of the day, like we are entrepreneurs and we're Bitcoiners at heart, but like we have a fiduciary duty to our investors and to everyone on the team who we employ to actually build a really meaningful business that, someday hopefully makes a ton of money, and we can all make a ton of money. But so we have to it's like a really interesting kind of paradox of like making really powerful business decisions and being a Bitcoiner and like really adhering to this like kind of full like philosophical narrative that like we kind of have grown up in over, the past however many years that we've been in Bitcoin, and kind of weighing out like, should we have this incredibly like non-custodial cypherpunk solution for peer-to-peer wagering? And we do, and we built it, and we will use it, but like, we can't use it today because no one can use it. Like, just if we're going to break out of Bitcoin, like, sure, we can, when we launch our apps, we see how we can see the Bitcoiner ceiling, and it's great. Like, we get those Bitcoiners right away. But I think the most powerful thing we as a company can do for Bitcoin is get out of that ceiling and actually start reaching normal users. So it's really interesting. We've had to make, some trade-offs to ensure that our product can be used by normal people. Like 85% of our users are totally new to Bitcoin. Like, that's the most meaningful thing, and like how we can really push Bitcoin forward. And sometimes we have to make, we are very like, Jack and I are very like, you should self-custody, like we're very passionate about it, but we have to have like a business mind when it comes to making decisions for the company. So it's been a really interesting journey. I think that's been one of the biggest friction points, especially for this like bear market, like not like the Bitcoin bear market, but like the VC bear market, where it was like, okay, we've got to build something that is going to make money and is going to succeed, because we don't know what's going to happen in this VC space, and there's no guarantee that we'll raise money. So that was like kind of a wake-up call to me. I don't know if, Jack, you kind of feel the same thing, but I think Bitcoin has a ton of opportunity, but we're still so early that like it is a little bit of friction, and we just have to make decisions for the company based on what's best for the company.
Yeah, I think there's just there's all weird timings going on. Like, everyone talks about the 4-year cycle Bitcoin bull and bear markets, but there's like the technology cycle going on underneath, and like an actual adoption cycle, like another level down from that, which is not as fast as like the bull and bear market, I'd argue. So you kind of have to get all the timings right. And yeah, like I said, we have these we always try and do something innovative first, and then test it, see if people are ready for it, if the tech's going to work. And normally we're ahead of the market and ahead of everything, to have to shelve it and just wait for the market to come to us and go back to more like simpler business models, so that we can ride out any bumps in the road. Because I think the VC market is just as like whipsaw-ish as the Bitcoin market.
Yeah, I had a VC fund that invested in early stage tech, not in Bitcoin, although maybe one day, but it's always a balance, because, and I love really early stage tech, and it's so exciting to understand what the promise is, but to meld that with actually having a viable business. And I think what Israel and I are realizing as we explore this space deeper is that some of the Bitcoin oriented VCs, or the VCs, the investors who are supporting the Bitcoin companies, they understand the longer term, the longer time frame that it's taking to build this out. And I look at micropayments as one of the biggest opportunities that I think people are not even wrapping their head around yet. And the gaming aspect of it, I mean, because you really deal in these small amounts, and it's never been possible before. I mean, everything in the entertainment space, from, receiving news to, streaming a song, if all of that can be peer to peer and through micropayments. So I think the model that you're building is just so cutting edge that you're just seeing this opportunity before the world is waking up to how it can operate for paying for value. But one question that I wanted to ask you, in the App Store, just talking about even regulatory issues, even on Nostr, the whole idea of zapping or tipping for sats was kind of shut down by the App Store. And how are you guys working around that? Or do you have any concerns about, regulatory or just regulation on App Stores, since you must be so dependent upon that?
Yeah, so in terms of cryptocurrency, it's been fine, and Bitcoin, we haven't really had any problems. Our approach is we just like give really detailed descriptions and documentation with every app submission so that we don't get tripped up. Generally, I think at the start it was a bit more like in 2019 it was a bit more tricky, but these days it seems to be fine. I mean, with one of our business models, which is skill-based wagering, that's a bit more tricky because that's kind of in that grey area, which is it's unregulated in most places. So it's fine to do that business model, but like Google Play don't allow those types of apps on their Play Store, whereas Apple do. So it's kind of clear cut, like you can't put it on Google Play. But they are softening on that position, and recently started doing tests in Brazil and Mexico of those types of games. So I think generally Apple seems to be open to it.
And so tell us about the business model for Thunder. How are you guys making money?
So we have our original suite of 6 games in the App Store and Google Play, and those are all free-to-play rewarded games. So we incentivize users to play the games by giving them these tiny micro incentive rewards, and these we're talking 100 sats, very small amounts of sats, but that drives retention significantly, well over 500% when you add these rewards. So effectively, if users are spending more time in the games, they're interacting with more ads, buying more things in games. So that effectively increases our LTV for the game. So for the games, it's like a very traditional mobile gaming business model. So, we're making money off of ads, in-app purchases, and subscriptions or any partnerships that we do with those games. What we've been working on over the past year is really targeting like a subset of the gaming space, which is like virtual casinos and sports betting, and what Jack had mentioned, which is skills-based wagering, which is not gambling. And with that, we have really this kind of tech platform for competitive gaming. So we make it possible for like online casinos to add PvP skill-based wagering to their sites. So for instance, there's a lot of states where you can't do you can't do virtual casinos. There's, I think, 6 that are legal right now. That is increasing. So those companies can't reach the entire U.S. audience. So when someone gets to their site, they just have to leave. Now, if we can provide a suite of games that are totally legal and available in all of those states, that is a huge leg up for them. So we have like that whole competitive gaming mode along with like matchmaking and player liquidity tools, which is really powerful. And then we obviously have the payments piece. So we are using Bitcoin Lightning Network to power those games, and as well as like working with other online sports books and virtual casinos to like power some of their wagers directly on the Lightning Network. So with that, there's, with the suite of competitive games, we have a revenue share with our partners who use the game suite, and with the games, we do a transaction fee type model. So that's how we're monetizing that game stack.
Well, I mean, congrats on what you guys are doing. I mean, we spent a bit of time speaking to the challenges, right? Which you very well went over. The protocol level, the tech can be kind of clunky or hard to understand. The adoption is limited. I mean, that being said, I think all 4 of us know that those things are going to change, right? The adoption is going to continue growing. Usability is going to continue improving. The technology is going to continue improving. And you mentioned something earlier, Desiree, that 85% of your users are new to Bitcoin, which is, first of all, very, very interesting and impressive. Maybe can you give us an example of from a user side, like what is that experience for one of these new to Bitcoin users for the, let's say, you mentioned skill-based wagering is one of your strong suits. Can you just kind of walk us through, as a new gamer user to Thunder, what I experienced from kind of beginning to end?
Yeah, so say you're in the App Store And, there's a lot of folks who already play similar games. They play, tile, like Sudoku style Tetris games. We have a game like that. We also have our skill-based solitaire game. And there's a ton of these type of games in the App Store. So say you play Skills Solitaire, which is skill-based wagering. I mean, that is a hugely popular game, and they bring in about $25 million of revenue for that game per month, just solitaire, which is wild. So say you've been playing Skills, but you have to reach, like, I can't remember the threshold. It might be $20, $40 before you can cash out. Well, like, it's very impossible to get to that point where you can cash out. I know my dad's girlfriend played it, and she played their solitaire for 2 years and never could cash out, like, played every day.
And you probably many users probably burn out, right, to your point, before they even get to that threshold.
So they're in the App Store, they're looking for alternatives, or maybe they're looking to just play it for the first time, and then they see our game, which is, we do promote it with Bitcoin, which I think people who are interested in wagering and, like, making money find that, they're have a little bit more risky behavior, so they download our game for the first time. And you can very easily get started. You don't have to download a wallet up front. We basically allow them to play. Now with the rewarded games, a lot easier because they literally just play. They don't have to, like, put any money in. And then they win, like Jack said, usually within the first 30 minutes. And there's nothing more compelling to get people to do something than by, like, giving them something for free. So they literally know that they have Bitcoin, which, even if they're not into Bitcoin, they understand that it has some type of tangible value. So that's the greatest incentive for them to go download a Bitcoin wallet and cash out Bitcoin to the first time. So we're really introducing them to that first flow of, like, okay, cool, I've now just downloaded a wallet of Satoshi or Stripe, and I can just press cash out and it goes to my wallet, right? So we're getting them used to that flow for the first time, and ideally, like, because they can get rewards every hour, they come back and do that entire thing again. And then ideally, us as Bitcoiners would love to see them do that flow elsewhere, right? They actually, take the money that they've earned and that they have in their wallet, in their Zebedee wallet, and buy a gift card on Bitrefill, or, use Bitcoin in some other way, or, just save it and cash out to cold storage, right? Or cash out, transfer to cold storage. So it's a very easy way to onboard people for the first time.
I mean, it certainly sounds like it. What has been some of the growth you've seen?
Yeah, actually, the games have grown. Can't remember the top of my head, but we've only really done organic, and it has grown, like, quite significantly just organically. And the interesting thing is, I did an exercise where I overlaid our monthly active users versus the price of Bitcoin, and you could see, like, the chain kind of correlates with the interest in Bitcoin. But fortunately for us, our monthly active users still went up, even though the Bitcoin price went down. So it kind of meant, like, to me, although the Bitcoin price was going down, the growth of, like, the underlying people using the tech is still there and still going up. Just the price had obviously blown up too far. So yeah, we do see quite a lot of growth. Even we see people. These days, we see a lot of growth in people willing to spend their Bitcoin as well, because now there's, like, a cache of people with money in their pocket. Whereas when we first started, people were just kind of stacking sats. That was, like, the this thing everyone was doing. But yeah, I'd say there's a lot more growth now in just different types of use cases. Like, there's some music and podcasts, games, shopping, lots of different ways to use it.
Community is such an important part of gaming too. How do you guys kind of draw people in, or have? What is the community experience inside of Thunder?
One thing I think we've been really consistent with is customer support. Obviously, there's only so much you can do with the product. There's going to be bugs, things are going to happen. Users are just not going to know what they're doing sometimes. So we have a really, really strong, like, customer support mechanism. Like our customer support person on our team is like absolutely incredible. Always available, always like explaining people when they don't understand what Bitcoin is, or like asking like, how do I get my Ripple? And now this is not Ripple. Like let's bring you to the good side of things. So I think that's where we start, is just like ensuring we always have a place for users to go when something's not working. And that we've kind of just grown the community over that. I think we have like well over 30,000 people in our Discord. The Telegram groups are like really active, and people are pretty vocal on Twitter. I think, we just try to make Bitcoin fun. I also love the serious side and like following the people like the big minds like Lynn Alden and folks like that. But I think we also make it fun, so it's not so like brainy. It's just people can come and win, and there's not doesn't have to be a ton to it. And I think over the past year, it's like our users got more competitive, and like that's why we went down the wagering rabbit hole, was people wanted to wager on the games. And so it's gotten really competitive. And so like we just, for instance, launched leaderboards for our skill-based solitaire game. And I think there was someone last week that won like $1,900 last week playing solitaire, which is like mind-blowing. And so everybody gets really competitive. There's like these names that everybody knows. So it's almost become like this like little esports community where, yeah, I'm always like rooting on Chris. I don't even know how to say their name, but like I have like my favorites that I'm like, oh, great to see, like Radinator, Raiden. I don't even know how to say it. I was another one of my faves who's just like so good. And those people then like become evangelists or advocates, and they're not. We have one customer support person helping out, and everybody chips in, but you have these people in the community who just like kind of step up and start helping out other community members. So it's really like a big, I don't know, family or cult. I don't know. It's really evolved naturally itself, but I think that one of our core values at the company is love, which I didn't come up with. I know probably people think that because I'm a female CEO, but I didn't. But I do love that. Love is one of our core values. So I think like starting there, we just like really always treat people with compassion and give people a safe space to like come and learn about Bitcoin for the first time. And it's worked. Like the community is like one thing that we've 100% done right the entire time. Like I'm very proud on that. Like there's so many other founder stories of things we've messed up, but community we haven't.
Just talking about organic growth, I would imagine. And I'd also imagine that, what tends to happen is that once you get into Bitcoin and you start learning it, you just want to share that with other people. And so I would imagine the community is supportive with new Bitcoiners and how to download wallets and the Bitcoin use experience overall. So yeah, what a great way to make learning about Bitcoin fun.
And on community, by the way, Desiree and Jack, I mean, just geographically, where is Thunder available and where are your users?
So it's our kind of free-to-play games are available most places. There's a few that they aren't. It's just that's just based on like App Store restrictions. The skill-based wagering is available in about like 80% of the world, and again, like that's just based on like, for instance, like France doesn't allow skill-based wagering, but we have a lot of users. We have obviously the US, but we do have a lot of users in Latin America and the APAC region. We've done some like really fun partnership stuff with Pouch. There's a lot of users in Pouch. They're also like big gamers there. So am I missing any, Jack?
No, yeah, I'll just call out one. South America is like very popular. Like a normal games company, you wouldn't be like organically the top place for like a English speaking company as well. So you can really sense the adoption of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin in that region just based on how popular it is and how you don't really have a lot of customer support problems with that group either because they already know it. They're quite mature.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's great to hear. Lynn and I are both, quite familiar with the Latin American market, and I mean, I think conceptually the technology of, I'll just do, kind of quote unquote cryptocurrency is very, it's just something that is quite needed in that region. It kind of comes naturally to understand why that might be important.
And then speaking of distribution, what about your own team? Let's kind of focus a little bit on Thunder and how you guys operate. Des, you're in the US and Jack, you're in the UK. How about the rest of your team? Where are you? Do you have physical locations? Are you virtual?
We don't have any physical locations. We are headquartered in the UK. We, as you mentioned, I'm in the US. Jack is in the UK. We have another one of Jack's, literally the first employee, actually also lives in the UK as well. Tim, our tech lead. We have a few folks in Krakow in Poland. Two of them Polish, one of them American. And then we have someone in Nigeria.
And then we were connected through the Wolf Accelerator, and you guys were, I think that cohort is just concluded, or I'm not sure if you're still going through it, but can you talk a little bit about your experience and why you chose to go through an acceleration program, being that you're fairly mature now? Was that partly to kind of solve that issue, Jack, that you talked about earlier or no, Des, I think you mentioned that you need to focus on revenue generation, but you have all these ideas for future technologies. So
yeah, we actually finished up in March. So they did a special cohort that was 4 companies that were a little bit further along. It was just 2 companies. So that was really focused. I wasn't like, okay, redefining or defining your product, and it was we really had the product built out. We had a market identified, and it was really around customer discovery, starting a sales process, a lot of just going from being a fun startup that has some really organic growth in users, and then taking the tech that we had built and actually productionizing that so we could start selling that to other businesses. So that was the main reason, was kind of transitioning from being solely B2C based to transitioning more to B2B. So that was very helpful for that, as well as just figuring out how to sell something to people was a really incredible experience. So yeah, we really enjoyed the Wolf program and learned a lot. So I would say it was an accelerator plus. I don't know how they frame it, but yeah, it was great to work with the other company and just kind of lessons learned and kind of grow together. It's a really special space that they've kind of crafted, where companies can grow and learn off of each other and share stories. So I really like what they're doing.
Oh, well, that's great to hear that it helped kind of fine tune some of those maybe, growth and monetization pain points that you guys are going through at this stage of your startup. So, maybe to that, Desiree and Jack, what's the kind of roadmap looking ahead in the, coming 6 to 12 months? I mean, anything you're particularly looking forward to, either on the technology side or any other offerings that you're hoping to launch?
I think we're really excited. One, we have I mentioned this kind of competitive gaming platform that we're really excited. We've brought on our first sportsbook recently. We have several other partners in the pipeline that will be onboarding soon. So there will be not only our games, but our payments tech will be powering a lot of what those platforms do, which I think is really, really powerful. And I'm so excited to be in this new industry, in this new space. We also still have we really believe in eating our own tech. And so we obviously have all of that in our end user peer-to-peer competitive solitaire app. So that we launched in early or mid-August, I can't remember, but that has been really incredible to see the growth of people just betting on solitaire, which is wild to me. So I'm excited to see that grow, push out some more games on these platforms, and then just announce big partnerships that are coming up. I think the iGaming and sports betting space is just ripe with payments problems. If you look across gaming as a whole, like traditional gaming, most don't have payments. A few do. And again, mostly it's rewarded. And the volumes are very small. So like, even if there are a lot of in-app purchases, the volumes are not very big, but you start working with a sports book that's small, and they're doing hundreds of millions of dollars in volume. And they constantly have problems with payments and are just have so many fees. You're not seeing like 1 to 3% for a lot of these operators. You're seeing like 5 to 12% fees, transaction fees. So I think we found like a really special place to start and like actually start using Bitcoin to solve problems rather than, I think we were solving problems before and like just the rewarded mobile gaming space, but it was like more of a nice to have rather than a need to have, right? It was something that you could add to drive retention, but now it's like, oh my God, like users aren't getting their payments for 2 weeks after, they bet on an NBA game. Users like are getting paper checks in the mail. Like there's some regulations where you have to get a paper check, and it's just so incredibly antiquated when you have like neobanks and things like this. So we're really excited to like actually start tackling proper problems rather than just like forcing Bitcoin down an industry's throat. So like I don't even have to say Bitcoin until the end, where I'm like, listen, we can solve all of these problems, and it just so happens that it's Bitcoin that solves this, which I think is really cool, and I think we're doing something really unique with that. But
so, in addition to your own, your own games, you could make what you developed available to other gaming, really any other entertainment who's company that's looking, or platform that's looking to solve payment issues, right? And that was part of what you were talking about, Des, about moving from just B2C to B2B. So your platform and your expertise and the solutions that you built could be taken on by or could be sold or API'd to other companies. That's amazing.
Yeah, we like it. People like it so far. It's not been a hard sell. Or I'm just really good at sales, which I think was the case. So.
And then the funding for Thunder. So you mentioned that you've raised some VC. What's your funding path? Do you have anything coming up? What's your roadmap in terms of that, or what would ideal investors be for you?
Yeah, I think, we obviously always love Bitcoin investors. That's our kind of safe space, our home. We are gearing up in the next month or so to start having some fundraising conversations. So we're really interested in like generalist VCs, just kind of finding VC partners that we can work with to expand our reach outside of just building products for Bitcoin users. We want to make more Bitcoin users, not only serve Bitcoin users. Eventually we want to only serve Bitcoin users because everybody will be a Bitcoin user. So yeah, I mean, we're obviously open to gaming VCs, generalist VCs. We're really kind of wanting to work with anybody who deeply understands like the founder journey, but also like understands bleeding edge tech and what it takes to get and build in these spaces that are much harder because we're, like Jack said, we're a little bit before our time. So we're open to any and all conversations. So if folks are interested, I love chatting with investors.
Jack, are you adding to your team at all? Do you have any technical talent needs? Because I know we have probably a lot of startups or programmers or people listening to the podcast too that, just always looking for opportunities to make available to them.
We're always open to people to reach out. Some of our last hires were people who were already kind of working with us, like the community managers and stuff. They were already like working with us, and we already worked together on some other things. We're working on growth at the moment for both our clinch solitaire game and our platform sales. So anyone with an experience in growth in either consumer or business. And I think we really need help with operations. I mean, there's is something we're at the top of our list. Like, I think that's the most underappreciated job in a startup, to be frank. So yeah, like anyone who's like a whiz at that, if they're listening and looking for a job one day, please get in touch.
No, well, excellent. Yeah, I mean, thanks for sharing. And, I definitely encourage anyone listening to get in touch with your team. I mean, I'm gonna go back to that stat that you mentioned earlier, Des, but the fact that 8 out of 10 users of your users are new to Bitcoin. I mean, it just speaks to the power of this technology and what you guys are doing, of course, on top of it. I mean, that's really what you want to see. Back to your point, Des, of excuse me, of solving real pain points. I mean, you don't necessarily need to be interested or know that you need Bitcoin in order to realize that you suddenly just came upon a better product and technology, right? So just big hats off to you guys there. And where can people reach out to you guys, whether it's investors or someone looking to join the operations side there, Jack?
Or looking to game.
Or of course
and win and earn Bitcoin for gaming.
I want to give people please go to thunder.io, THNDR.io, and just look at it. And Jack built this beautiful website. I did help with the content, but I'm just telling you, it is just so beautiful. It went live yesterday. So if people could go and check out thunder.io and just appreciate the beauty in which Jack can make websites. He's not hireable. No, he's not hireable, but it's a beautiful website. So check that out there. But also you can go to clinch.gg, and that has a link to, or you can play our competitive solitaire at that website.
If you go to thunder.io, there's a button at the top that says play, and you can find all our games, including Clinch, the solitaire game. And on that website, there's also a contact form at the bottom where if you're interested in working with us in any capacity, you can just fill out that form, or me and Desiree will get it.
Yeah, or DM us on Twitter. Our tweets are always, or our DMs are always open. So happy to chat or move people in the right direction with links and whatnot.
I so enjoyed this conversation and just really appreciate both of you. I mean, it's fun, but it's also, incredibly creative way to get people into Bitcoin, and also to, again, I just think what you're attacking, or what your vision is for helping micropayments, immediate settlements, is, I think gaming has been kind of an industry that has led technology. So as we move forward down the development cycle, I think 5 years from now, this conversation and the problems that you're solving in your technology will be adopted by every other industry that will wake up to what this opportunity is. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having us. This is absolutely a pleasure to join you guys.
Thanks for listening to the Build with Bitcoin podcast. If you found benefit in what you heard in this episode, we'd appreciate it if you would like, share, or leave a comment. This helps others find us, which is especially important as a new podcast. And if we had lawyers, they'd tell us to tell you that the content of this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not to be considered investment advice or a recommendation to invest in any company or asset mentioned in the episode. Thank you sincerely for being a part of the Build with Bitcoin community.